I was still holding the grocery bag when I saw the second phone on the counter, black, face down, vibrating like a trapped moth. I hadn't bought it, I didn't own it, and the screen lit with a single word, babe. The bag slipped, tomatoes rolling across the hardwood like drops of blood. Everything after that happened in half speed, the way accidents do. I heard the shower shut off upstairs. I heard the wet slap of her feet on tile. I heard my own pulse. I picked the phone up with 2 fingers, as if it were contagious, and the notification disappeared into a lock screen. A photo of her laughing, hair slick from the ocean, taken last summer on the private edge of Cape Breton, only I hadn't taken it. Someone else had been close enough to catch the spray on her lashes. The lock clock said 6:42 p.m., mine in my pocket said the same. Synchronicity, and still we were suddenly in different hours. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it, printless, heart roaring. When Olivia appeared at the base of the stairs, towel twisted around her head, she smiled the same smile she'd used the morning I proposed. I felt it land like a paper cut. "Why were you standing in the dark?" she asked, flicking the switch. Light crashed over us. I blinked, gestured at the spilled produce. "Clumsy," I said. She stepped over the tomatoes, kissed my cheek, tasted of eucalyptus shower gel. Her lips left a cool circle that dried fast. We cooked. We talked about the mayor's new tax, about the neighbor's dog that barks in Morse code, about anything but the phone. She drank white wine, I pretended to. When she turned to the stove, I slipped the device into my pocket, vibration and all. It did not go off again. At 2:13 a.m., I sat in the garage with the door locked and the car's dome light burning my eyes. The phone asked for a 6-digit passcode. I tried her birthday. Mine our anniversary, no. I tried 123,456 because people are lazier than they admit. The screen sprang open. Inside, everything was doubled. 2 photo libraries, 2 contact lists, 2 versions of a life. In the second one, I barely existed. There was a thread labeled work, but the last message read, "I can still smell you on my shirt." I scrolled until the letters blurred. I took pictures of the screen with my own phone, flash reflecting off the windshield like lightning I couldn't outrun. I wanted to go upstairs and wake her, wanted to howl, wanted to plead. Instead, I returned the phone to the counter, screen side down, and lay beside her in the dark. She slept with one hand under the pillow, the other stretched toward me, palm open, fingers curled, an invitation I no longer trusted. I stared at the ceiling until it brightened with dawn, rehearsing sentences that felt true and then felt theatrical, erasing each one. Morning came packaged in ordinary sounds. The furnace exhaled, the coffee grinder growled, the CBC anchor recited temperatures. Olivia hummed to herself, the tune we danced to at our wedding. I watched her pour cream until it clouded, and the word babe floated in the swirl. She asked if I felt okay. I must look pale. I said I'd slept poorly, blamed the neighbor's dog. She kissed my forehead, temperature taking. Her lips were still cool. I drove to work but parked 3 blocks away and walked back home. I needed to see what the house said when I wasn't in it. I crept in through the side door, heart hammering like a first-time burglar in my own life. Upstairs, the bed was made hospital tight. Her closet smelled of cedar and the citrus detergent she'd used since college. On the upper shelf, pushed behind a box of winter boots, I found a small tin with a ribbon bow. Inside lay a stack of Polaroids. Olivia and a man on a ferry deck, wind whipping her hair across both their faces. Olivia barefoot on a beach towel, head thrown back laughing. Olivia asleep on someone's couch, mouth soft, blanket tucked to her chin. I turned them over. Dates, 6 months' worth, all scribbled in her compact left-leaning script. Same script that once wrote me love notes on lunch napkins. The last photo was timestamped 3 weeks ago, the night I'd stayed late installing servers and texted her good night. Love you, no reply. I replaced everything, drove to the office, sat through meetings about firewalls and bandwidth, nodded when required. On my screen, the code I wrote looked like a foreign language I'd once been fluent in. At lunch, I Googled a man. Jacob Lavelle, architect, teaches design at Dalhousie, divorced, Instagram public. There he was holding a coffee cup she bought me for Father's Day, the one that says world's #1 NON dad because we never managed kids. I felt something sheer inside, a cable parting under too much weight. Weekend. We drove to the farmer's market like always. She squeezed peaches, smelled them, offered me the fuzzy globe. I took it, felt the give of ripeness, imagined it rotting in my palm. At the cheese stall, she asked what I wanted. I said surprise me. She chose the aged Gouda wheat eaten on our first picnic. I remembered the blanket, the ants, the way she'd wiped a crumb from my beard and said, "You're mine." Now the word tasted of smoke. That night we watched a movie. She picked the one about time travel where lovers miss each other by inches. I couldn't follow the plot, my mind replaying the photos, the texts. Halfway through, she curled against me, her head in the hollow below my shoulder, custom carved by years. I felt her breathing sync with mine, the old duet, and hated how automatic it still was. Sunday, she went for her run. I opened her laptop, our laptop, and entered the password we'd shared since 2009, the latitude and longitude of the lake where we'd first kissed. It worked. Inside, a folder labeled Taxes 2023 contained 3 subfolders, one named JL. Spreadsheets of dinners, hotels, mileage. A document titled Future. I opened it. Paragraphs about open-concept kitchens, skylights, a dog named Theo, children with hyphenated last names. None of it included me. I read it twice, cursor blinking like a metronome keeping time with my disintegration. I closed the laptop, walked to the garage, gripped a hammer, considered the windshield of her car. Instead, I drove to the waterfront and sat on a bench where gulls screamed overhead. I texted her, working on server emergency, back late. She replied with a heart, the red vivid as a wound. Tuesday, I left work early and drove to the university. I found his office. 3rd floor, glass wall, drawings of angular houses pinned like butterflies. He was there, mid-30s, beard going gray early, the kind of careless handsome I'd never been. I introduced myself by my first name only, said I was considering graduate school, asked about his studio. He spoke passionately, hence shaping air. I watched the way his eyes held mine, the same steadiness that probably hooked her. When I left, he gave me a pamphlet, fingers smudged with charcoal. I wanted to crush his knuckles in the door jamb, but I nodded thanks, walked away clean. That night I initiated lovemaking, desperate to feel if her body still recognized mine. She responded, generous as ever, but at the crucial moment she gasped a sound that wasn't my name, cut it short, buried her face in my neck. I finished anyway, eyes open, staring at the cracked plaster we'd promised to fix, knowing we never would. After, she slept. I went to the basement, opened the box of wedding gifts we still hadn't used, the crystal decanter, the silver serving spoons, the quilt stitched by my aunt who died the following winter. I spread the quilt on the concrete floor and lay on it, staring at the joists. I stayed until the furnace clicked on, warming air that felt centuries old. Thursday, she texted that dinner was running late, client meeting. I drove to the restaurant she'd named, waited across the street. They arrived separately, she in her work blazer, he in leather jacket. They didn't touch going in, but one seated his hand rested on her thigh beneath the tablecloth, casual ownership. I watched them share tiramisu. 2 forks, the intimacy of silverware. When they left, I followed at a distance, saw them kiss under a street lamp, soft at first, then urgent, her hips fitting his like a puzzle piece found after years under the couch. I walked home, 8 miles, shoes eating blisters into my heels. The next day I requested a week off work. I told her I was going to help my sister move. She hugged me, said, "Give Aaron my love." I drove to a motel an hour away, checked in under a fake name, paid cash. I turned off my phone and slept 14 hours, dreamless for the first time in months. When I returned, the house felt altered, as though someone had shifted every picture a quarter inch. I searched drawers, found a small velvet box tucked beneath her winter tights. Inside was a key, brass, unfamiliar, engraved S&H storage. I said nothing. On Saturday morning, she announced brunch with colleagues, kissed my cheek, perfume lingering like a departing train. I followed her instead. She drove across the bridge to the South End warehouse district, punched a code, rolled up a storage unit door. Inside, a sofa I didn't recognize, 2 crates of dishes, a lamp from her grandmother, boxes labeled as books. She stood in the middle, arms wrapped around herself, smiling the small private smile people save for memory, not present company. I watched her lock up, drive away. That night I sat at the kitchen table when she came in. I placed the key between us like a wager. She froze, groceries sagging in her arms. I said only, "Tell me." She set the bags down, produced rolling again, this time an orange bumped the key, spun it like a compass needle that had forgotten north. She didn't cry, didn't lie. She spoke quietly, voice steady, as though reciting minutes from a meeting. It had started 18 months ago, a lecture series, coffee after, the slow creep of confession. She said she loved him, said she loved me too, said she was trying to choose without losing either. She used words like process and transition, words that sanitized the blood on the floor. I listened without moving. The refrigerator hummed like a distant crowd. When she finished, I asked, "Do you want to stay?" She looked at the key, at the floor, at last at me. "I don't know how to come back," she said. I nodded, felt something settle, heavy and final as wet cement. I stood, walked upstairs, pulled the quilt from the basement box, carried it to the guest room. I spread it on the narrow bed, lay on top, stared at the ceiling until morning. She never came up. Sunday we moved around each other like ghosts negotiating hunting rights. At dusk I found her in the garden, kneeling among the lavender weed planted the year everything felt possible. I sat beside her, dirt gritty under my palms. I said, "I won't erase my history for you." She turned, eyes shining at last. I kept talking. "But I won't live in the footnote either. I'm going to build something new. Alone." She nodded, bit her lip until color fled. We sold the house. Separately we packed, dividing books, memories, the last of the good olive oil. On the final day we stood in the empty living room, voices echoing. She held out her hand. I took it, felt the ridges of her knuckles one last time. We didn't hug. She walked to the car, didn't look back. I drove to the lake where we'd first kissed, parked at the exact coordinates we once used as password. Water lapped the stones, same as ever. I opened the trunk, lifted the quilt, the tin of photos, the key. I built a small pyramid of driftwood, set everything on top. I struck a match, touched it to the corner of the quilt. Flames climbed, curling the photos, turning Jacob's face into ash that lifted on the updraft, scattered across black water. The key glowed orange, then dulled. I watched until the last ember sighed out. Dawn came up behind me, sky rinsed pale. I felt the ache settle into my marrow, the kind you learn to walk with, like a leg that never quite heals right but carries you anyway. I started the car, drove west, toward whatever future waited on the far side of the smoke I'd left behind.